Hi, hello everyone. Happy to meet you all. My name is Dr. Maria Znamenska. I'm a Chief Medical Officer at Altris AI. Let's talk today about AI OCT interpretation and quantitative analysis progression tracking for dry AMD. Are we gonna talk only about dry AMD? Well, let's see how it goes. So to start with, artificial intelligence is now in almost all areas of our life, personal life, professional life as well, and also it goes to medicine pretty quickly. And today the aim of artificial intelligence is to increase the speed and accuracy of medical image interpretation if we are talking about medical images, to decrease the number of medical errors, to provide eye care specialists with second opinion in controversial cases. So basically, it can help you to make the right decision. It can give you some ideas of the diagnosis, but I will start with the point, and I think I will also end with the point that it cannot replace a doctor. So today the aim of AI is assisting but not replacing, and this is a very, very important message. So today I'll be talking, of course, about Altris AI, one of the most well-known AI tools for ophthalmology and for optometry. And I'm going to show you all the possibilities of Altris AI. So first of all, Altris is a good screening tool. Basically, Altris works only with OCT. Altris doesn't work with fundus photo, but with OCT, you can upload DICOM files to the system, to the cloud, and then it can be analyzed. So what do we upload? We upload DICOMs. DICOM is a file that each OCT device has, and this file contains information about the device itself, about the protocol of investigation, all the images, and the number of images can be different in different protocol scannings. So it can contain starting, I think, 13 in some devices. For example, in Heidelberg, it can be more than 13. It can be more than 20. In most devices, there are 64, 128. In some cases, there are 512, depending on the OCT device, depending on the version of device. So basically, DICOM contain information about the device, about screening protocol, about the scanning protocol, and all the images. And also by analyzing DICOM files, Altris gets an information about measurements. It can measure pathologies. I will talk about it a little bit later. So basically, we can identify pathologies, we can calculate pathologies, and it gives us also an understanding of volumes, because we usually use like 3D mapping in OCT, and also Altris can analyze this stuff. So what we need to do is to take the DICOM file, upload it into the system. It is a web-based platform, so basically you don't need, no installations are needed for using Altris. And then artificial intelligence starts its interpretation. The first step is screening. Basically, each scan is analyzed separately. And each scan, all the examination can be divided in green, yellow, and red, how we used to see in different ophthalmic machines and OCT. Green scans for non-pathological scans, red scales or frames for pathological scans, and yellow for something in between. So basically here you can see the square with 128 scans, and you can see that In the upper and lower parts of the macular zone, there is no pathology, and then we can see some yellow areas just in the center. We understand that in many pathologies, pathology can, in many diseases, pathology can be located somewhere in one part of the macula, and basically this is very, very helpful. Then Altris can make its own calculations, and this is one of main advantages because Altris is vendor neutral, which means that we can easily compare calculations of whole retinal thickness or several layers thicknesses between devices. We know that the difference in retinal thickness between some devices can be up to 50 microns. And basically, when we are providing treatment to many patients with different pathologies, those numbers can be critical for our decisions. So basically, one patient can have data taken from, for example, Heidelberg, another one from Topcon, another one from Zeiss, and we can compare easily because Altris calculates thicknesses by itself, no matter what device is. And also, as I have mentioned before, we can also calculate, for example, ganglion cell thicknesses and RNFL thicknesses, for example, it can be really very precise comparison between devices. Next feature is one of, I would say, most popular is AI segmentation and classification. So basically, Altris can detect more than 70 pathologies and pathological signs or pathological biomarkers within the retina, and it gives us the color coding. So basically, it paints different pathologies in different colors, and it gives us an understanding how different pathologies look like. And this is very, very interesting, and we will see some examples today a little bit late. So before AI, how do we analyze follow-up OCT exams? So let's have one clinical example of a 76-year-old woman, a patient who had a dry AMD history for more than 10 years. And in 2017, she firstly came to our clinic, and we found out that there is a dry AMD, and then she was followed by us, and we've made several of OCT exams during all those years until today, and we have retrospectively analyzed her OCT exams from 2017 to 2024 using Altris AI. So before AI, what we were looking at. Basically, we were following the ETDRS retinal thickness in this patient, and we could see that thickness was more or less the same until her last visit in 2024. We can see that thickness in the center was a little bit lower than in previous exams. And also, of course, we were following the images that we've received from this patient, and we can see from one exam to another that it was the development of geographic atrophy from dry AMD. Yeah, so this is how we used to work before. But now we have a question if AI can do more for OCT analysis. So basically, first of all, AI can help us identify pathological biomarkers. And as I have mentioned before, you can see it here. So basically, this is a color coding. And we can see here the first visit of this patient in 2017, and we can see such biomarkers as confluent Drusen, epiretinal zone disruption, epiretinal fibrosis, and other. And we can see how they look on OCT scan. I need to mention here that each scan out of the examination, here we can see that the total number of scans is 128, and each scan is analyzed by itself. So this is not like a general picture, because from one scan to another we can see a different number and mix of biomarkers. So here we can see the scan number 64, which is in the center, and we can see presence of different biomarkers. And in the lower part of the slide, you can see the classification. Classification means the diagnosis recommendation, and this is very, very important. This is what I was telling you about, that we are not replacing, Altris is not replacing doctor. Altris can give you an idea of what it can be. So by analyzing the scan, AI thinks that this OCT probably is for the patient with a dry AMD. So now let's explore biomarkers one by one. We can see how confluent drusen look like on the same 64 scan. You can see the orange here. We can see the ellipsoid zone disruption here. You can see it's like a violet one. The next one is epiretinal fibrosis. We can also see it on the left side. Then the next biomarker is intraretinal hyperreflective foci. It's not very clear here, but in the center, I think you can see it. And also we can see the posterior hyaloid membrane detachment here. And RPE disruption also can be seen here in green. So basically, one by one, those biomarkers were detected, and then the conclusion for the classification was the presence of dry AMD. And then when we retrospectively uploaded all her visits, all her OCTs, we asked AI to give us all the biomarkers that were detected during her 4 visits. And basically here you can see the list of all biomarkers during her 4 visits that we've discovered. And from what we can see here, some of them have increased, some of them have decreased. Everything is calculated in percentage. And then we decided to look through biomarkers one by one. So let's start from confluent drusen. We've already seen them on the OCT scan. And what we can see here, you can see 4 examinations from 2017, 2019, 2020, and 2024. We can see the total count of drusen, and you can see it above the ETDRS scales, and we can see like the number of drusen. We can see the number was decreasing from one examination to another. And also on the ETDRS scales, you can see the distribution of confluent drusen within the macular area. Few words about the count. The count is within the 6 by 6 millimeter area, which is like the macular area. And we can see that the number of confluent drusen from one year to another here has decreased. We can calculate the area of confluent drusen, and we can see here all the numbers, all the graphs. We can see that the number of confluent drusen has decreased in 1 millimeter zone, in 3 millimeter zone, and also in 6 millimeter zone. And also we can explore different biomarkers and other biomarkers. Let's see the hypertransmission. We can see no hypertransmission was detected in 2017, and in 2019 we can see some blue areas close to the center that have appeared, and hypertransmission is a biomarker that tells us about the atrophy of retinal pigment epithelium. And then you can see that this area have increased in 2020, and then we can see pretty big area in 2024. When we asked AI to calculate the area of hypertransmission, we can see how it increased in 1 millimeter zone, in 3 millimeter zone, and also in 6 millimeter zone, which tells us that there is a progression to geographic atrophy. The next biomarker that was detected in this patient was neurosensory retina atrophy, and we can see that during her first 2 visits in 2017 and in 2019, there was no signs of neurosensory retina atrophy, but it appeared in 2020, and now we can see how big it is in 2024. Again, we asked to calculate all those numbers of area, and we get area of neurosensory retina atrophy, and we can see how it increased from one visit to another. Also, RPE atrophy is one more biomarker of GA development, and also we can see that it appeared in 2019 just a little bit, and we can see the bigger area in 2020 and pretty big one in 2024, and also the graphs and calculation of in-face area tell us that we have progression of GA here. So here you can see the third visit of this patient in 2020, and by detecting hypertransmission, by defining ellipsoid zone disruption, by defining the RPE atrophy, AI changes the classification from just dry AMD to geographic atrophy. So basically, it follows the patient, it follows the scans that we are uploading, and AI changes diagnosis with changes, with real changes in patient, and this is really great. But again, we could find out something really strange in this patient follow-up. So in those list of biomarkers, we found such biomarker as fibrovascular RPE detachment. This biomarker usually tells us about choroidal neovascularization development, and it is not typical for dry AMD, it's not typical for GA, but it appeared somehow here. So we've analyzed it, and we can see appearance of this biomarker in lower part of macular area on the 4th visit in 2024. We asked to calculate, to make sure if it is a mistake or if it is not a mistake. So we have calculated all the areas, and we can see 0, 0, 0 in first 3 visits, and we can see like the increase in up to 4th visit. Then the next biomarker that was not typical for dry AMD and that was not typical for GA is subretinal hyperreflective material, or SHRIM, which also corresponds usually to choroidal neovascularization, and it also appears in almost the same area on the 4th visit. In the lower part of the macular area, and also we can see the calculations and appearance during the 4th visit. We can see it in numbers. And then we could find out the appearance of subretinal fluid about the same area, same visit, 4th visit, same area, and when we calculated area, we can also see its appearance during the 4th visit. But what Altris also can do, except measurements of area, it can also measure the volume of fluids. And what we can see here, that the fluid was absent during the first, second, and third visit. And when she came to us in 2024, we can see that the fluid is here, and we can calculate in nanoliters the volume of this fluid. So we've asked we've asked AI what's happening here. And again, if we are looking to the central scan, 64 scan, which is in the center where the fovea is, it is still dry AMD and geographic atrophy. But what we can remember that all those non-typical biomarkers appeared in the lower parts of macular area. And if we go down for the scan number 111, we can see the diagnosis changes to choroidal neovascularization and wet AMD, which dramatically changes the treatment strategy for this patient. The most amazing in this situation is that the visual acuity of this patient having GA in the center was extremely low, and the patient has had no additional complaints. It could have been easily missed by eye care specialists because the situation changed in the lowest part of macular area. But AI helped us, first of all, to detect changes. Second of all, we could calculate all those changes, understand that the situation has changed, and we need to change treatment in this patient. Such situations are not typical. We don't see them very often in our clinical practice, but still sometimes GA can turn to wet AMD, unfortunately, and for that we need, of course, anti-VEGF treatment and so on. So now the patient is still in the treatment, but we have changed treatment for her, and AI helped us with that. So basically, Altris AI can detect every retinal pathology or biomarkers, and no guesswork is required. I'd like to remind you that Altris is the only AI system today that can detect more than 70 pathologies and biomarkers, and it stands apart from other systems that focus on isolated conditions such as, for example, GA or DR or choroidal neovascularization. Altris can detect all retinal pathologies and biomarkers visible on macular OCT scan. So basically, it is really very, very useful. Then, unlike other solutions which require pre-existing assumption about particular biomarkers or pathology, as I have told you before, Altris detects the biggest number of biomarkers. And by analyzing all biomarkers and pathologies, Altris AI minimizes the risk of overlooking critical pathologies, which is a common limitation in AI tools designed exclusively for conditions like wet AMD or GA. So it can be widely used. And the take-home message today is that AI is transforming OCT follow-up analysis by shifting the focus from retinal thickness evaluation, as we used to do before, to quantitative analysis of biomarkers, enabling early detection and more personalized treatment strategies. So basically, we can track one pathology after another. We can evaluate the efficacy of treatment. We can evaluate how primary and secondary biomarkers are affected to the treatment. For example, do we know how, for instance, anti-VEGF therapy influence, let's say, epiretinal membranes? Not really. And it might be really interesting in in research purposes as well as in clinical purposes, because we can track, for example, different types of fluids. We can understand when and how do we need to change treatment strategies or treatment strategies for our patients. And also AI-driven OCT analysis offers an additional tool for visually demonstrating all those changes to our patients, which can dramatically increase compliance of our patients to the treatment. And also overall, we can understand better the pathogenesis of various retinal diseases, and AI can see really a little bit more than we used to have in our OCT devices. So basically, we can use it today. Altris AI has FDA clearance, CE certification for the European Union, and it is already used in many practices, in optometry practices, in ophthalmic clinics as well. So if you want to understand better how it works, I think the best way for you is to get a 14-day free trial, which our sales team can provide to you. You can contact them and then can create you an account, a free demo account for some number of examinations for you to try to upload scans of your patients to understand how it works, to see how different pathologies look like, to measure it, to play a little bit. And I think you will really enjoy it. So please contact our sales team, and I am sure they will be more than happy to help you. Where your servers are based. Our servers are based all over the world. This is basically the question about the data security. We know that the healthcare data is very sensitive, and there is a high demand for location of services in different parts of the world. So basically, depending on where you're located, we have servers in the United States, in European Union, in Middle East, in different countries. So we are completely GDPR compliant, and you can be sure that the data will be safe. On that, I wish you all a good evening, and see you all on our next meetings and webinars. Thank you so much for your attention. Take care. Bye-bye.